Whatever stage you're at with your trading, it's important to stop and gain perspective before planning your next move. Take a break from the charts and join in the discussion with our hosts, Jason Graystone and Akil Stokes, as they share insights, opinions and expertise on all things trading. Grab a coffee, pull up a chair and join the Trader Coffee Break.
Well. Welcome back to the Trader Coffee Break. Hope everyone's had a good week so far. Got a few people in the chat already. Akil, how you doing?
Doing good. Wish it was a better week of trading on a little bit of a cold streak heading from last week. Had some good trades on yesterday. Kind of knew how the news was gonna react this morning, but the plan's the plan. You stick to it, and took me out of one. So been better, but that's the ups and downs of trading. I've lost before. I shall lose again.
Never a true word spoken, my man. And yeah, it's been pretty quiet for me on the trading front this week. Waiting for CPI. I don't know if you guys are on the charts, but if you go to the New Zealand dollar, those of you familiar with advanced patterns, there is a cipher pattern on the 4 hour. The X point was at 6106, and it is a textbook. Like, that CPI news just rolled right over on a dime there, taking out multiple targets for any one of our traders who trade that style and that pattern. So well done. That was a few of you brought that up in the live room this morning. I know there's, cake's on you. Coffee's on you. So this week, what are we talking about, Akil?
Yeah, we got it's actually a question that came from one of the traders that we're working with. And basically he said, I'll kind of read the question, but the topic is, do I have time to trade? And it was really about, hey, I'm looking to start demo trading and eventually live trading. And I'm going through kind of my daily checklist. I noticed that I'm only going to have time to check my charts maybe once daily for like a 4-hour period between 1 p.m. and 5 p.m. New York. And the question was, therefore, does this affect the type of trading strategy that I choose to test or choose to follow through? And I thought it was a very interesting question because, as we know, many traders, they don't think about that side of it. They think about, I want to do this day trading, or I want to do this swing trading, or this strategy or that strategy, but they don't necessarily think about what they're able to do. And I guess I want to ask you the question first, Jason. Put yourself in the shoes of a newer trader. How would you set this up? Would you look at your trading strategy and try to fit your current life around your trading strategy? Let's assume you're working a full-time job or whatever. Or would you try to find a trading strategy that works around your life?
Yeah. First of all, it's impressive that they have asked that question because, as you say, most people do not ask or don't even have that foresight at all. So it's a really great question to ask. As with everything, like, I always reference to like trying to lose weight. If you make it difficult, you're not going to do it. And I put a post earlier on Twitter or X about trading being like body conditioning, because you can have a personal trainer and they'll say, yeah, eat this, go to the gym, do this training plan, but you still haven't got to do it. It's still up to you to do it. Like, no one can really help you. They can say, yeah, I'm holding you accountable, but at the end of the day, if you don't want to do it, you're not going to do it. You just won't. Every week you'll show up to that call with your guy, and you'll be like, no, I did have a cheat. I did eat the chocolate bar, and I did have the muffin, and they can like get frustrated till they're blue in the face. But the fact of the matter is, you have to do it, right? So the way that you do it is to make it as easy as possible with minimal disruption to what you're used to your comforts. So that's the key. Like, you're losing weight. You don't just give up something completely. You just make changes and you make switches in certain foods and drinks and habits. So with trading, it's the same thing. If you have to disrupt your entire life and go against every comfort that you've got used to and every routine and habit and everything that you do on a daily basis, if you have to uplift all of that just to make trading work, it's probably not going to work, So your second option that you said there, Akil, is definitely the way to go. It's like, look at what you're doing and then look at a system, look at trading as how can I build this around what I'm currently doing rather than that's dictating what I have to prioritize. Now I have to juggle my life around just to make that work. Here's the beauty, like what I've found is if you can do it that first way, once you do that and you start to become profitable, because it's easy, because you haven't like disturbed your entire life, once you start bringing in some income, then you might work a little bit less or stop doing the overtime, or you might actually just think, do you know what, this is going somewhere now. I'm going to prioritize that a little bit more, and I'm going to have my lunch break off, or I'm going to go home early, or I'm going to, whatever your vocation allows you to do. But then you start to then do it the other way. Then you start building your life around the most profitable time to trade. But you can only do that when you can do it. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's. I saw the post this morning. I had to close it out before my wife came in. Didn't want to get into trouble or anything like that. But I love the reference, and I can't remember. I spoke about this in one of the Trading Coach podcast episodes the other day, but it was like you said about putting yourself in the position to succeed. And I forgot what it's called, but it's eliminating the temptation. So the example is like this, like again, going back to weight loss, right? If you're trying to lose weight, it's going to be very hard to do so when there are tubs of chocolates and candies and sodas in the refrigerator, right?
Yeah.
But when you go to the supermarket, if you can avoid buying that stuff when you're at the supermarket, it never enters your household. When it never enters your household, that temptation is automatically gone or lessened because it's not there. Now it's like, okay, if I really want this soda, I got to get in the car, I got to drive, I got to go get it. And you're probably like, I'll just drink a water instead. So it's like trading's the same way, putting yourself in a position to succeed. And I remember very early on in my trading career, I was trading this mechanical system, and I was all about being a machine, optimization. No one really told me about, working it around my life. So I'm testing this system, and I'm I've got the data, I'm breaking it down hour by hour. And I'm like, okay, the most profitable time to trade this system is like 2:00 in the morning to like 5:00 in the morning, my time. So that's the London Open pretty much. And then like a little bit later on in New York. So I'm like, okay, this is where the money's at. I'm going to trade it. And I tried for about a week or two waking up. It was a 4-hour system. So I had to wake up like, I think I had to check it at the 10 o'clock candle and then check it again at 2. And I tried that for a week, thinking like, hey, the money will make it worth it, and completely destroyed me. I just could not do it. I could not function with waking up at 10 and checking the chart and then getting like 3.5 hours of sleep, then waking up again and checking it, and then trying to operate during the day. And that's when I learned that like, hey, it's just not worth it. I was sleep deprived. I was angry in other aspects of my life. The trading in the afternoon wasn't sharp because I wasn't really focused, and it hit me where it's like, I can't do this. And that was the first time I realized like, hey, the most profitable way isn't necessarily the best way. And that's why we're so glad you're asking this question, because most newer traders come in thinking, okay, find the most profitable way. Where in reality, you may have to sacrifice, and most of us do, we do sacrifice profit for fulfillment, for lifestyle, for health, whatever it may be. So it's a really cool question to ask.
Yeah.
And the second part you mentioned about the, I guess, making transition. I remember a trader we worked with a while back. This is probably back in the Trade and Power days, where, worked with him for a while, and he got to the point where he was a newer trader. He's working his full-time job, and he started getting good. And I remember the first year, he's like, okay, I'm going to reduce my hours from like 40 hours a week to like 35 hours a week. I think he just took like, he went in a few hours later each day because that trading profit was now making up for that income. And then he went from like 30 hours to like 20 hours, right? And then I remember he got um, a note from his job saying that they were doing cuts and whatnot and that people were going to be laid off. And he went in, he told, and he was like, this is a blessing in disguise. He went in and told his boss, said, hey, look, I'll work half the hours, half the week, whatever it may be. And he wanted to do that anyway, because now the trading income was making up for that work income. And he slowly phased himself out of working full time to going part time. And he was a lot happier in life because he had that balance to be with his grandkids and stuff like that. It was just a really cool story of someone being patient like over years, but slowly transitioning from one phase of his life to another. And that's an amazing story.
Yeah, it is. And look, this is another reason why you cannot just go and pick a strategy. Like, don't chase the shiny object strategy and go, well, I'm going to... I mean, I've lost count of the amount of times that people have messaged me going, what do you think of Bollinger Bands? What do you think of ICT? What do you think of smart money concepts? What do you think of this, that, and the other? And it's like, look, if you just pick a strategy from someone who you think is profitable and you think, oh yeah, that looks great, everyone's doing well, I'm going to try that. If you don't give that consideration to how it's going to affect your life, like what is demanded of you as a trader to actually replicate the results that successful person's got, and can you do the same? Forget all of the mindset and the psychology stuff, because that I'm not even mentioning that. I'm just talking about time of day. I'm talking about, like, when are you free to be able to do it? Are you able to mirror that exact performance? Because the chances are you can't. So one question, and this is something that's come to a big realization of mine as I've got older and older, and I've got in more and more of a more comfortable position in my life. But a great question is this: before you even consider trading or consider a strategy, ask yourself what your perfect day or week looks like if you didn't have to do anything. If you didn't need any money and you didn't need to trade and you didn't need any business, no money, you're sorted, and Monday you can just start living that life forever, right? Chances are there's going to be certain times of that, majority of that, where you're going to want to choose to do things, right? You're going to want to have the freedom and flexibility to do things that you love, right? And that is why we're all here. We're all alive because we want to live that. We want to do things that we find fulfilling and inspiring. So that's beyond money, right? So at some point, there is going to be a yes or no to the question, would you still do that, or would you stop doing that ideal life, if you were paid $50? And you'd be like, no. $100? No. $1,000? No. And at some point, there's going to be, well, you know, I might have one day away from it if I could get, and that number is going to be different for everyone. Here's why this is important. Who here has got to a position before where you go, oh, you're making some decent money, and now I let's just say that you went from coaching in person and it was exhausting, and now you're like charging a week's worth of wages or money for one coaching call, and that happens. And then the more you accumulate, even that becomes a pain. It's like, oh God, I've got to make that call. Even though I'm being paid $5,000, it's still a pain in the ass because it's stopping you from living your best life. That's what you're trying to move towards. So at some point, your trading strategy, this is a big tangent I'm going on here, but at some point your trading strategy will get in the way of your life. So you have to make sure that you're happy with how much that trading strategy is getting in the way of your life. And the best way to think about that is reverse engineer it. Think about in the future. Think about, what does that dream life look like? And if I was bringing in money trading, how much am I willing to be pulled away from that life to bring in the money to fund that life. And it's a really weird way, and not a lot of people will tell you to think about it this way. But I promise you, if you give that some thought, you'll come up with some really, really interesting insights into how often you'd be comfortable trading. You know, how many days of the week, how many hours per day. So yeah, give it some thought.
That's 100% true. I remember I stopped day trading, during COVID, because again, during COVID, kids weren't going to school. There was so much more time during the day, and I wanted to spend time with my family. And I'm like, wait, why am I on these charts? Like, my kids run around. I want to go to the park with them.
Yeah.
And I remember years later, I developed this new strategy, the DKC strategy. Worked really, really well, but it required that I was in front of my charts for like an extra 4 hours a day, paying attention like to 15-minute candles. And I did it for about 6 months. And then I asked myself the same question, like, why am I doing this?
What?
Like, I don't need to. Like, I don't need to do this. Like, why am I doing this? And I think it's because it's easy for a newer trader to look at us too and be like, well, easy for you guys to say, like, you know, you're at this point, I'm at this point. But understand that we've all gone through the process, and we're just trying to give you some experience of like, hey, start thinking about these things now before you get trapped and it's too late. Yeah. And the thing is, you can change, you can adapt. So if you are a newer trader, you're hungry, maybe you don't have a family, any responsibilities, and you're like, hey man, like, I just want to spend as much time on the charts as possible. Like, shoot, like, day trade, do different strategies, be as active as you want. But at some point, start thinking about the future. So like, I know me, the big thing that I want to develop is I want to develop something similar to the daily chore, like something I can check, something mechanical, systematic that I can check on the daily once a day, spend literally like 5 minutes doing analysis and have my answer, right? Because there's going to be some point in my life where even swing trading becomes too much. And swing trading doesn't take a massive amount of time, but I'm thinking, hey, when I'm older or whatever like that, and I just don't want to do anything, right? I don't want to come back and I got to look at a chart at 6 o'clock at night just to make sure, blah, blah, blah.
I know.
I want to transition to something where it's like, hey, 5 p.m., 5 minutes, boom, boom, boom. Yeah. That's it. Yes or no, and then move on. So I'm starting to prepare for that now in thinking of, I don't know, 10, 20, I don't know how many years, but when that time is right, then I can make that transition. So understand, as a newer trader, you can have one strategy because you're at a different point in your life now. But like Jason said, just always keep in mind, like, what do you want that perfect life to be? And just plan for it. So at least it's in your head. Even if you don't have the answers right now, maybe you're not skilled enough to have the answers right now. Yeah. But at least you're considering it for later before you get stuck. You know, it's like someone taking a job that has I remember I had a friend of mine, she was a teacher, and right out of college, she took his job out in like somewhere in Asia, because it was a job that offered, it would repay her student loans and blah, blah, blah. But it was like a 5-year commitment. 2 years in, she hated it. She was away from all her friends and didn't know anyone out there. The language barrier was tough. And she was regretting her choice. And it's all because she didn't give it any thought. She just hopped at the first thing, didn't think about starting a family in 5 years and blah, blah, blah. And now she was stuck in a situation that she didn't want to be in. So it's like, just think about these things, write it down, put it aside before you just, make your decision on kind of the first thing you see out there. I love the rant. That was a brilliant advice.
It always comes down to, it always comes down to this. It's like, if you have a fantasy about what it looks like in the first place, you're not gonna be able to think like Akil, thinking into the future, going, you know what, there might come a time where checking the charts for 5 minutes per day is annoying, right? Because when you tell that to a lot of people who are getting into trading, they're like, oh, don't be ridiculous. I'd do anything to trade because trading's amazing. And yeah, there are amazing parts of it, right? And guess what? There's amazing parts of sitting on a beach, sipping cocktails in the Maldives, but you wouldn't want to do it every day. So when you have this idea that is the only thing I want to do, you're usually blind to something that you're missing. And when you start to see that, you're going to realize, and you're going to go, right, yeah. And you will see those things. So the best thing is to like see it for what it is. Plan meticulously. Be very logical. Be very holistic in your thinking. Just like be real about it. Mm-hmm. Try and visualize what your day to day will look like, and then try and visualize where you're going and how that fits in. Because ultimately, we are doing things so that we can have a life that we want to fill with things that we love. So whatever helps us get that life, you're going to do, or you're going to try and do. And if trading's one of those, you've got to make sure that as you move towards that life, how much trading do you still want to do? Or can you adapt it? Can you start from like day one building it so that when you're at that point, you don't have to worry about that? It's a weird conversation because I think this is probably the first time this has been discussed ever. Mm-hmm. Like, honestly. And that's why I love these coffee breaks, because it's just, even me and Akil, like, we've never spoken about this. This is something that just, these are real raw thoughts that come off the dome when you're talking like this. And it's so valuable. So let us know. One thing I would say is, like actionable steps wise, I would say, let's just say that you are going to try and fit it around your current life, which is a wise thing to do. You want to start on the higher time frames. You want to start on the daily or the 4 hour. You want to build a system that really only requires you to check the charts at a time that you can consistently be checking that chart, whether that's a consistent half-hour break every day, or a consistent lunch hour, or a consistent whatever it is, 5 hours. So the consistency is the most important thing, not necessarily the time frame. Like if you trade the hourly, great, you might have consistent breaks every half hour, every hour, but usually people don't. In jobs, in work, it's normally like every 4 hours they'll have a half-hour break, or. So you want to start with a 4 hour or above, in my opinion, for sure.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think the 4 hours is a sweet spot. Usually you can get some type of break every 4 hours, and you also have so much time to prepare. Where it's like, we were looking at a trade yesterday, and someone was looking on a 15-minute chart, and it's like every 15 minutes you're like, okay, what happened? What happened? And they're talking to me. I'm like, look, we got 3 hours before this candle closes. I can care less until 1 p.m. Yeah. And it just brings that peace of mind. You don't have to rush, and when you're not rushing, you're making less mistakes. You can cross the T's and dot the I's and all that stuff. But
I was with lunch was it yesterday or the day before? I think it was the day before. I was with lunch with two of our traders, Andrew Bridges, who's been trading since way back, like trading powered days. He's doing phenomenally well. But Elliot Capel, who is just trading bat patterns on the 4 hour, and he just passed the trading challenge with City Traders Imperium. They've just leveled up his account. Now they're, for every 10%, they're doubling it. So that's a great incentive. He's got a 4-year plan now to get to their top level. So phenomenal.
And just bat patterns.
Just bat patterns, 4 hour time frame.
Be good at one thing.
One thing. One thing.
Gosh.
And that's it. Yeah.
Oh, I love hearing that. Like be really, really good at one thing.
Yeah.
If you ever want to add after that, you can add something else, but man, that's,
it's awesome.
I made my day. Good.
Cool. All right. Neil said I started on lower time frames and found it stressful to manage. I now trade the 4 hour time frame. It's much more relaxed.
Neil, I started on lower time frames. I had a full head of hair.
It's true. Awesome. Well, that was a great conversation, guys. If you want to bring up a topic to discuss next week, so you can grab a coffee and join in on the rant and the tangents, let us know in the comments. And until next week, take care. Have a great rest of your day, and we'll catch you in the markets.
Thanks for joining us for the Trader Coffee Break. Be sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and don't forget to hit the notification bell to never miss a live discussion. Follow our hosts on social media. And remember, do nothing to gain perspective on everything. See you next week.